Hello friends. Welcome to Luxury Stories, the ultimate destination for lovers of high-end experiences, opulent lifestyles, and untold tales of extravagance. Your support means the world to us. Please do well to hit that subscription button and turn on the notification bell to get notified on our subsequent stories. Don't forget to like and share with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. Alexander Cole was one of the most talked about businessmen in the city. He ran an export company called Cole Global Ventures, dealing with everything from precious metals to exotic spices. His imposing figure, tall and broad with salt and pepper hair, stood out in any crowd. Many people admired him from a distance for his wealth and leadership. However, up close, his arrogance was difficult to ignore. His wife, Marina Cole, came from a modest background. She had met Alexander through an old friend at a networking event. Back then, Alexander had been charming. Marina was impressed by his intelligence and ambition. He proposed to her after only 6 months of dating, and she accepted because, in her eyes, love conquered all differences. They lived in a sprawling mansion in an upscale neighborhood. The floors were made of polished marble, and crystal chandeliers sparkled from the ceiling. Every room had pieces of imported art that most people could only admire in museums. Marina found the house overwhelming at times, but she tried her best to make it a home, adding fresh flowers and simple decor to soften the sharp edges of luxury. On a sunny afternoon, Marina sat in the living room reading a fashion magazine. She had always been interested in modest styles that combined comfort and elegance. Suddenly, Alexander's footsteps echoed from the hallway. He entered the room, glancing at her with a faint smile. Alexander, clearing his throat, "Marina, how do you like our new chandelier? I just had it imported from Italy. Supposed to be from some famous designer." Marina, looking up from her magazine, "It's beautiful, Alexander. It looks quite grand." Alexander, nodding proudly, "Of course it does. I never settle for second best, you know. By the way, we have a small company gathering here next week. Make sure you have the staff prepare everything to perfection." While his tone was friendly, there was an underlying expectation that everything must be executed flawlessly. Marina felt a small wave of anxiety. She wanted everything to be just right for him, but the constant demand for perfection sometimes weighed her down. As the days passed, she noticed how the employees at Cole Global Ventures acted around Alexander. They called him sir and jumped to perform tasks. The household staff tiptoed around him, afraid to anger the man who paid their salaries. Marina sometimes found it unsettling. She recalled her humble upbringing. No one ever bowed and scraped in her old neighborhood. Still, in these early chapters of their marriage, Alexander seemed proud to have her by his side. He took her to fancy dinners, introduced her to important colleagues, and occasionally bragged about her kindness to his friends. Marina believed they could find balance between her down-to-earth roots and his high-flying ambitions. Alexander, with a small grin one evening, "You know, I really can't imagine my life without you, Marina. You make our home feel warm." Marina, smiling softly, "I'm here for you, Alexander. I just hope you don't forget the little things that make us who we are." For a while, the small slice of paradise in their mansion was enough. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. Cracks that Marina could sense, though she tried hard to ignore them. The following weeks brought subtle changes to Alexander's behavior. He became more critical, more demanding, and less patient. Marina first noticed these changes when they were selecting table settings for the upcoming company gathering. "Marina, holding 2 dinner plates with different patterns. Which one looks more elegant, Alexander?" "I think the floral pattern is nice, but the gold trim is also lovely." Alexander, giving her a dismissive glance, "Why are you wasting my time with this? You should already know which design fits my standard. Aren't you supposed to have good taste by now?" His tone stung. It was a small thing, a set of plates, but it revealed a sharper edge in his personality. Later that day, Marina tried to engage him in conversation about a community charity she wanted to support. She felt a desire to help women who had no financial safety nets. Marina, softly, hoping to catch his interest, "There's this foundation that helps disadvantaged women start small businesses. I was thinking we could." Alexander, interrupting her, barely looking up from his phone, "Marina, that sounds like something you can handle on your own if you want. I have no time for minor charities that don't give us any strategic advantage. Focus on managing the house." He walked away, leaving her feeling unimportant. Despite her hurt, she tried to rationalize his behavior. Work stress, she assumed, must be taking a toll on him. Cole Global Ventures was expanding into new regions, and expansion often brought challenges. One evening, Marina overheard a tense phone call while passing by his study. His voice was loud, reverberating through the half-open door. "Alexander, on the phone, I told you to finalize that contract. Don't come to me with excuses. We are losing time and money because of your incompetence." There was a slam as he hung up. When Marina poked her head in, Alexander's face was contorted with anger. He softened his expression somewhat upon seeing her, but did not invite her in. "Alexander," speaking in a clipped tone, "Marina, I'm busy. I'll be out in an hour." The message was clear. He needed no comfort or conversation from her. Over time, Marina began to feel like a prop in Alexander's world, valued for appearances, but not heard or respected. She confided these worries to her close friend, Olivia Bennett, a budding social media influencer. One afternoon at a nearby cafe, she told Olivia everything that was bothering her. "Marina," stirring her tea anxiously, "he used to listen to me. Now, it feels like I'm invisible. He brushes off my ideas, and it's only getting worse. I'm scared, Olivia." Olivia, reaching over to hold Marina's hand. "That's not right, Marina. Don't let his temper overshadow who you are. You deserve better." Marina nodded in silent agreement. She prayed the situation would improve. However, she had no idea that the worst was still to come. The night of the company gathering arrived. The mansion was filled with Alexander's top executives and key staff members. Waiters in crisp uniforms glided through the rooms, carrying trays of champagne and exotic appetizers. Marina wore a long, elegant blue gown that complemented her warm complexion. She had spent hours ensuring every detail of the gathering was perfect. At first, the evening seemed to go smoothly. The guests mingled, admiring the mansion's decor and the lavish buffet. Alexander, dressed in a sleek black suit, chatted confidently with a group of foreign investors. Marina stood by his side, smiling politely. However, as the night progressed, Alexander's tone shifted from polite conversation to patronizing commentary. "Investor," smiling at Marina, "your home is stunning, Mrs. Cole. How do you manage everything so effortlessly?" Marina, with humility, "Thank you, but I've had a lot of help from the staff. We have a very dedicated team." Alexander, chuckling and cutting in, "Yes, well, Marina's still learning the ropes. She might not fully understand the intricacies of managing a big event, but I'm guiding her along." Marina felt her cheeks grow hot with embarrassment. His words were harsh, suggesting she was inept. Others in the circle avoided her gaze, sensing the discomfort. A bit later, a minor glitch occurred. The live band arrived late due to traffic. When the music failed to start on schedule, Alexander's frustration zeroed in on Marina. "Alexander," in a hushed but angry tone, "I told you everything needs to be on time. Can't you manage simple coordination? How hard is it to ensure the band shows up when they're supposed to?" Marina, with quivering voice, "They called to say there was an accident on the main road, and I couldn't." Alexander, raising his voice, "Stop making excuses. Everyone is waiting. This is an embarrassment to me." The crowd around them tried to pretend they didn't hear, but it was impossible to ignore. One of Alexander's junior staff members, Linda Sparks, gave Marina a sympathetic look, but she dared not speak up. The humiliated wife felt as though the walls were closing in on her. In an attempt to defuse the situation, Marina stepped away to answer the phone from the band's driver. When she returned to update Alexander with the new arrival time, he dismissed her loudly. "Alexander, I don't need more excuses, Marina. Please keep out of my discussions if you can't be of real help." A tense silence fell around them. Marina's eyes watered, but she fought to maintain composure. The public humiliation weighed heavily, and she realized that Alexander's respect for her had diminished more than she had admitted to herself. This was the beginning of an open display of disrespect, one that would soon spiral out of control. The next few days passed in a blur of tension. Marina tried to keep a low profile in the house, and the household staff tiptoed around Alexander to avoid triggering his temper. But the real moment of rupture came one evening when Alexander decided to hold an impromptu meeting at home with his senior executives. They gathered in the spacious living room. The staff, including the family chauffeur, Daniel Porter, and the housekeeper, Mrs. Lane, moved in and out quietly, serving drinks and snacks. Marina, dressed in casual trousers and a simple blouse, lingered near a corner, not wanting to intrude, but also feeling she should be present as Alexander's wife. During the discussion, one executive cautiously mentioned a recent financial loss. The tension in the room spiked, and Alexander's face grew dark. When Marina tried to offer a gentler perspective, her husband's temper boiled over. Marina, maybe we should consider adjusting the marketing strategy. Sometimes a new approach. Alexander, suddenly shouting, don't meddle in matters you don't understand. This is serious business, not some trivial household issue. Stop talking nonsense. The executives froze. A stunned silence descended. Marina's face flushed with hurt and anger. She mustered the courage to stand her ground. Marina, voice trembling, Alexander, please lower your voice. There's no need to. Alexander, eyes blazing, I will talk however I want in my house. Who do you think you are to lecture me? And then, without warning, he raised his hand and struck her across the cheek. The sound of the slap echoed through the room. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Marina stumbled backward, gasping in shock. No one moved. The executives looked down, terrified to intervene. Mrs. Lane let out a soft cry, and Daniel's fists clenched at his sides, but they all remembered who signed their paychecks. Marina's face burned with pain. Her eyes filled with tears she struggled to keep from spilling. Alexander, panting, seemed to realize what he had done, but his expression hardened instead of softening. Alexander, voice lowered but still fierce, don't ever try to undermine my authority again. Unable to utter a word, Marina ran out of the room. Her vision blurred as she rushed up the grand staircase to their bedroom. She locked the door and sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands. The sting on her cheek was a physical reminder of how far her husband had fallen from the loving man she once knew. All the staff and executives downstairs remained in an uneasy silence. Even after Alexander continued the meeting, everyone's focus was broken. A line had been crossed, and there was no going back. Marina couldn't sleep that night, her cheek throbbing both from pain and humiliation. Every memory of Alexander's earlier affection ran through her mind in a loop. She felt betrayed and deeply ashamed. The next morning, she avoided him, leaving the bedroom before he woke up. She wandered the extensive grounds of the mansion, seeking a moment of clarity. Around mid-afternoon, she found Daniel in the garage, polishing the sleek, black company car. She approached him cautiously. Marina, Daniel, I need your help. Daniel, looking concerned, speaking softly. Yes, Mrs. Cole. Whatever you need. Marina, her voice shaking, I have to leave this house. I can't stay here anymore. Daniel nodded, his eyes reflecting sympathy. He had seen the awful altercation the previous night. In a swift decision, they planned that he would drive her away in the late evening, when Alexander would be occupied with work calls. Marina quickly packed a small suitcase, taking only the essentials and leaving behind the luxurious items her husband had showered upon her. When night fell, she crept quietly down the back staircase, suitcase in hand. She wore plain clothes, jeans, a sweatshirt, and sneakers, to avoid drawing attention. Daniel met her at the rear entrance. Daniel, opening the car door quietly. I'll take you wherever you need to go, Mrs. Cole. Do you have a place in mind? Marina, voice trembling. Yes, please drive me to my friend Olivia Bennett's apartment. She offered me a place to stay. They drove in silence, the mansion lights growing smaller in the rearview mirror. Marina stared out the window, torn between sadness and relief. She wondered how Alexander would react when he discovered she was gone. Perhaps he wouldn't care as long as his image remained intact. But deep in her heart, she knew a man with Alexander's pride would be furious. They arrived at a modest apartment block where Olivia lived. The building was a far cry from the luxury Marina was accustomed to, but she felt an unexpected sense of comfort. Olivia was waiting at the entrance, arms folded with worry. She rushed forward as soon as she saw Marina step out of the car. Olivia, hugging Marina tightly. Oh my gosh, Marina, are you okay? I've been so worried. Marina, unable to hold back tears, I don't know anymore. I left everything behind. Daniel helped carry Marina's suitcase to Olivia's apartment. Before leaving, he handed Marina a small envelope containing some cash he had saved. Daniel, lowering his voice, use this if you need anything. I can't stand by while you suffer. Marina. Thank you, Daniel. I don't know what to say. With that, she stepped into Olivia's apartment, leaving behind a life of luxury tarnished by violence. Though her heart felt heavy, she also felt a sense of liberation. She was no longer in the mansion's gilded cage. Even though she had no idea what the future held, she vowed that no one would ever lay hands on her like that again. Olivia's apartment was small but cozy. The living room had a worn-out couch, a coffee table scattered with fashion magazines, and a ring light in the corner that Olivia used for her social media videos. Despite the humble setting, Marina immediately felt more at home than she ever had in her palatial mansion. After a long shower and a change of clothes, she sat down with Olivia over a late dinner of simple vegetable stew and bread. Olivia was eager to hear the full story. Olivia, start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. I need to know how bad it got. Marina, sighing deeply, it's a lot. At first, I thought Alexander's behavior was just stress. But then the insults got worse, and he finally struck me. She recounted every detail, from the public humiliation to the final slap. Olivia listened with growing outrage. Olivia, fuming, he laid hands on you in front of everyone? That's unacceptable, Marina. You need to stand up for yourself. Marina, voice trembling, I know. But I feel so small. He's powerful. He controls his company, and people are afraid to cross him. What can I do? Olivia placed a comforting hand on Marina's shoulder. Olivia, you're not alone. I have some social media reach. If we decide to speak out, we can do it in a big way. But first, you need to think carefully about your safety. Marina nodded. She needed legal and emotional support. Olivia's best friend from college, Rachel Gray, was a lawyer specializing in family law. The next day, they set up a meeting at a nearby cafe. Over cups of cappuccino, Rachel patiently explained Marina's options. Rachel, flipping through a small notepad, you can file for divorce, a restraining order, or even pursue criminal charges if you have evidence of assault. But going against a man like Alexander can be tough. He has money and influence. Marina, with determination, I don't want to live in fear. I need to do this right. Rachel also mentioned that any documentation or witness statements could be crucial. Olivia encouraged Marina to gather what she could. Olivia, we'll need tangible evidence if we're going to stand up in court or the media. Think about photos, recordings, or testimonies. That evening, as Marina settled into Olivia's spare room, she reflected on how her life had changed in just a few days. She felt lonely without her family's presence, but she knew staying silent about the abuse would only enable Alexander. A seed of resolve sprouted within her. She would hold him accountable, no matter how long it took. For the first time in her life, Marina felt she had the power to shape her own fate. In this small apartment, among real friends, she started to regain her sense of self-worth. The journey ahead would be daunting, but at least she was no longer walking it alone. Word of Marina's departure spread quickly through the household staff and eventually reached Charles Green, a former accountant at Cole Global Ventures. Charles had left the company months earlier due to disagreements with Alexander over questionable financial practices. He had since been struggling to find stable employment, as Alexander had blacklisted him in many circles. When Charles heard Marina had walked out, he suspected serious trouble. He reached out to Olivia, requesting a private meeting with Marina. Initially, Marina was hesitant. She barely knew Charles. But when Olivia explained that Charles had potential evidence of Alexander's wrongdoing, Marina decided to meet him at a discreet location, a quiet bookstore cafe away from prying eyes. Charles, nervously adjusting his glasses, Mrs. Cole, thank you for agreeing to see me. I need you to know something. Alexander has been cooking the books at his company for years. I tried to expose it, but he forced me out. Marina's eyes widened. She knew Alexander could be ruthless in business, but she had never imagined him engaging in outright fraud. Marina, are you certain? Do you have proof? Charles, nodding emphatically, I kept digital copies of financial records and emails. He's laundered money and bribed officials to secure lucrative deals overseas. Realizing the gravity of this information, Marina and Olivia exchanged glances. This was a golden opportunity to weaken Alexander's ironclad public image. If he had been abusing not only his wife, but also the law, it would be a major scandal. Marina, voice firm, Charles, I want you to give all of that information to my lawyer. We'll figure out the best way to use it. Charles, I'll do it, but please be careful. Alexander has powerful connections. Marina nodded. She understood the risks, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. If she could bring down Alexander's empire, she would do more than just free herself from his shadow. She would ensure he could never inflict this pain on another person. Over the next few days, Marina worked closely with Rachel Gray, reviewing the documents Charles provided. The numbers were staggering. Certain transactions indicated shell companies and illegal transfers that implicated Alexander in fraudulent activities on a grand scale. Whenever Marina felt hesitant, she remembered the stinging sensation of his hand on her cheek and pushed forward. Meanwhile, Olivia helped gather testimonies from a few staff members who felt guilty about witnessing the abuse. Linda Sparks, the junior staffer from the night of the company gathering, provided a statement confirming Alexander's abusive outburst. Mrs. Lane, the housekeeper, wrote a short letter detailing the verbal harassment she had often overheard. These statements, combined with Charles's financial records, formed a tapestry of evidence against Alexander Cole. Marina stood on the edge of a seismic revelation. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and excitement. For once, she was no longer the powerless wife. She was an empowered individual, ready to make Alexander answer for his actions. And this was only the beginning. With enough evidence in hand, Marina and Olivia decided the time had come to go public. Olivia used her social media channels, especially her growing YouTube platform, to share an emotional, yet carefully documented, expose of Marina's story. They titled the video Rising from Abuse, the hidden life of a powerful mogul's wife. In the video, Marina appeared wearing a simple blouse, her eyes reflecting both vulnerability and determination. She recounted the humiliating moments, the physical assault, and the emotional toll it took on her. She carefully avoided defamation by relying on verifiable facts. Then she presented a summary of Alexander's financial misconduct, without revealing the most sensitive documents publicly. She teased that a full legal case was in progress and that more details would emerge in court. Marina, speaking to the camera, I'm sharing my story so people understand that even those living in privilege can be trapped in abusive situations. It's not about wealth or status, it's about control and fear. I refuse to be silenced anymore. Within hours, the video began to trend on social media platforms. Comments flooded in, some supportive, some skeptical, but all highly engaged. Mainstream news outlets caught wind of the story. Bloggers, journalists, and online personalities scrambled to get more information. Over at Cole Global Ventures, chaos ensued. Alexander received frantic calls from public relations staff and legal advisors. A wave of investors threatened to pull out if these allegations proved true. He tried to downplay the scandal, issuing a brief statement through his lawyers. Statement from Alexander's team. Mr. Cole denies all allegations of abuse and financial misconduct. We urge the public not to rush to judgment until the facts are presented in a court of law. But the damage was already done. The media hounded him outside his office. A crowd of reporters camped near the mansion gates, shouting questions whenever a car entered or exited. Overnight, Alexander found himself in a storm of public scrutiny he couldn't easily control. Marina watched the coverage from Olivia's apartment, her heart pounding each time reporters showed clips of her video. She knew she had taken an enormous step. There was no turning back now. All she could do was steel herself for the incoming tidal wave of both legal and emotional battles. In the midst of this media frenzy, she received an unexpected call from Daniel Porter. He quietly told her that Alexander was furious, hurling furniture around the house and demanding that his security team find her. Marina felt a chill in her spine, but she also felt more determined than ever. She had already made her move. The rest would follow in the courts, where she would fight for justice under the glaring light of public attention. Soon, a high-profile lawsuit was filed. Marina, represented by Rachel Gray, brought charges against Alexander for assault, battery, emotional distress, and defamation. In a separate action, Charles Green assisted the authorities in investigating Alexander for alleged financial fraud. The court set preliminary hearings, and the media devoured every update. In the courthouse lobby on the day of the first hearing, reporters crowded around, snapping photos and shouting questions. Marina entered with Rachel by her side. She held her chin high, though her hands trembled with nervous energy. Reporter, pushing a microphone forward, Mrs. Cole, how do you feel about facing your husband in court? Marina, steady voice, I feel it's necessary. The truth must come out. Alexander arrived soon after, flanked by his own legal team. He wore a grim expression and refused to speak to the press. In the courtroom, the two parties sat across from each other, exchanging cold glares. The judge reviewed the preliminary evidence and found sufficient grounds to move forward with the case. What followed was a storm of legal maneuvers. Alexander's lawyers tried to discredit Marina, arguing that she was exaggerating her claims to gain sympathy. They suggested she wanted to destroy Alexander's reputation for financial gain. However, the testimonies from Linda Sparks, Mrs. Lane, and others painted a starkly different picture. Detailed accounts of the night Alexander slapped Marina, combined with older incidents of verbal abuse, began to sway opinion. Meanwhile, the separate financial fraud investigation gathered speed. The authorities searched Cole Global Ventures offices, confiscating files and computer data. Several shareholders panicked and sold their stakes, causing the company's stock to plummet. Rival businesses capitalized on Alexander's difficulties, snatching up deals he could no longer secure. As the legal pressure mounted, Alexander started losing allies. Board members who once praised him now distanced themselves, fearing they might be implicated. His public image, once polished and admirable, lay in tatters. The weight of the financial misconduct allegations was particularly devastating. Even if he somehow avoided criminal conviction, his corporate empire was bleeding funds at an alarming rate. In a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, Alexander's legal team reached out to Marina. They proposed a private settlement, offering her a large sum if she dropped the assault charges and retracted her public statements about the abuse. The settlement sum was staggering, but Marina refused. She wanted accountability, not hush money. Marina, addressing the settlement offer with Rachel, I can't be silent. It's not just about me anymore. It's about every person who's been bullied or abused by someone in power. Rachel, nodding proudly. Then we proceed, regardless of the cost. By this point, Alexander was isolated. The same staff and executives who once praised him now avoided him. Olivia's video had surpassed 2 million views online, and public sentiment was firmly on Marina's side. Financial analysts speculated daily about the collapse of Cole Global Ventures. The man who once seemed untouchable was now cornered, struggling to keep even a sliver of his former glory. The final day of the lawsuit hearings arrived. Reporters packed the courtroom, and spectators lined up outside, hoping for a seat. Marina sat beside Rachel, her heart thumping. Alexander appeared more haggard than ever. Dark circles under his eyes, hair unkempt, and a gauntness to his cheeks that suggested many sleepless nights. During closing arguments, Rachel delivered a powerful summary, recounting the abuse Marina suffered and the extensive evidence of Alexander's controlling, violent behavior. She urged the court to see beyond his wealth and focus on the harm he inflicted on his wife. Alexander's legal team tried once more to dismiss Marina's claims as exaggerated, but the emotional testimonies and corroborating statements had already done their work. After a brief recess, the judge returned with a ruling. Alexander was found liable for assault and emotional distress. He was ordered to pay substantial damages to Marina. Additionally, a criminal case would proceed for the financial crimes, with an ongoing investigation by the authorities. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Alexander stared at the floor, his jaw clenched. He had no choice but to comply with the judgment if he wanted to avoid immediate incarceration. His empire continued to crumble, and rumors of bankruptcy loomed. Marina, on the other hand, left the courthouse with her head held high, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. Outside, reporters crowded in, shouting questions. For a moment, Marina paused at the top of the courthouse steps, the sun shining on her face. Reporter, Mrs. Cole, any comment on the verdict? Marina, voice trembling, but resolute, today's ruling isn't just for me. It's for everyone who has been silent in the face of abuse. I hope it gives them courage to speak out. She then walked away, surrounded by supporters, including Olivia, Rachel, and Charles Green. Daniel Porter was there too, standing quietly off to the side, offering a small nod of approval when her eyes met his. In the days that followed, Alexander faced more lawsuits related to financial fraud. He tried one last time to settle with Marina in private, hoping to buy her silence about any additional damaging evidence. But Marina refused. She was done accepting anything from him except what the court had lawfully awarded her. By the end of it all, Alexander lost most of his fortune. Marina used the compensation she received to support women's shelters and business startup programs, just as she had once dreamed of doing. She even spoke at public forums, championing the cause of domestic abuse survivors. In a bittersweet final note, the mansion where Marina once lived, its grand chandeliers and imported art, was put on sale to cover Alexander's debts. The emblem of his power now stood as a reminder of a fallen empire, empty and silent. Marina, meanwhile, moved on. She carried scars, but also a newfound strength. Her voice had been heard, and justice, at least in part, had been served. Thanks for watching. If you find this story interesting, do well to hit the subscription button and turn on the notification bell for our subsequent stories. Don't forget to like and share this video to others. See you in our next story.